The operators of Rainbow Six Extraction may be old friends if you've barricaded bomb sites and repelled off rooftops in Rainbow Six Siege, but it's time to take these relationships to the next level.
Launching the best!
Faced with a fierce and relentless army of Archean enemies, the operators of Extraction have had to adapt their abilities and evolve their loadouts to take on this deadly new challenge. So, in this episode of our Rainbow Six Extraction Deep Dive series, we're talking operators. Who are they? What unique gadgets do they bring to the fight? And how do they go beyond what you can do in Siege? How do the weapons and react tech that you choose change the way you play? And what kind of perks and upgrades can you unlock to make these operators more versatile and effective than ever? Now let's meet the crew. I suppose I could just list the 18 operators available at launch, but that might take a little while. Doc, Ella, Pulse, Alibi, Finka, Hibana, Lion, Sledge, Vigil, IQ, Jaeger, Rook, Fuse, Smoke, Tachanka, Capitao, Gridlock, and Nomad. Now, you won't have access to the full roster from the get-go. Extraction puts you on the front lines of an evolving crisis. So, Mira, Thermite, and Ash will bring new operators into the program as you progress through the game. Each operator has a unique ability that helps define what they can bring to the table. And what those abilities can do in Siege is just the beginning. As you level up an operator, you'll not only unlock perks and upgrades like faster reload, aim, and weapon swap speed, or the chance to self-revive if you deal enough damage while downed, you'll also unlock upgrades for their unique ability. For example, once Nomad reaches level 7, her knockback mines will straight up delete a variety of full-grown enemies. A level 10 Vigil won't just cloak himself from enemy sight, he'll cloak any teammates nearby and boost their movement speed. And while it's no longer seen in the hallways of Siege, Tachanka's mounted LMG is living its best life in Extraction, facing swarms of vicious Archeans. What could be better? 2 mounted LMGs? Now that's a godly upgrade. Operator abilities offer a wide range of ways to help you tackle problems, and while they're very effective in solo situations, these abilities truly shine when used in a team composition. Let's say you're playing nest tracking, an objective that requires you to get really veterinary on these pulsating nests. Take Pulse and his cardiac sensor. It'll let you spot the nests through walls. And Capitao's crossbow can shoot smokescreen bolts to mask your approach. If things get heated, Capitao's venom bolts can create poisonous clouds to damage any party crashers, and Doc's healing stim pistol can help fix your squad up if any enemies manage to land a blow. Perhaps you're trying to hold your ground when every Archean in the area gets your GPS location thanks to the explosive charge you just put on their stuff in Sabotage. Gridlock's track stingers can slow or kill enemies in their tracks, while Jaeger's active defense turret won't just stop enemy projectiles, it'll stop enemies dead. If you need to make a hasty getaway, then Sledge is your man. But if you prefer to make your pursuers pay, bring your pal Fuse along to cover your escape. Simply run through a react doorway while the monsters are nipping at your heels, close it, and deploy one of his cluster charges to dump a bunch of grenades on your soon-to-be former pursuers. But the operator you choose is just one facet of how you tailor your approach to the objectives you receive. You've also got weapons, and in addition to their starting primary and secondary weapons, every operator unlocks their first arsenal update at level 3. These give you some powerful new options, like adding the M870 shotgun to IQ's loadout to give her a bigger bang for her buck than her AUG A2 assault rifle. Or adding Lion's HK417 marksman rifle to give him longer range and stronger bite than his V308. These weapons may be familiar to veterans of Rainbow Six Siege, but you haven't truly appreciated the Bailiff 410 revolver shotgun in Alibi's arsenal until you've coolly popped your way through snarling grunts while carrying a fragile objective canister under your arm. Wielding these weapons in a PvE setting gives them a chance to shine in a whole new way. And weapon attachments like sights, barrels, and grips give you a chance to further customize your approach. Suppressed shotguns are a nasty way to take out close-range foes and quietly make your own doorways, and staying stealthy means nests stay dormant and less enemies spawn. But all it takes is one Archean holler to stir things up. When that happens, you'll be thankful you left the suppressor at home and nearly doubled the damage output of Finka's 6P41 LMG. The final piece of the loadout puzzle is React Tech. Now, you can think of these as secondary gadgets from Siege if they were left alone on an island for millions of years and evolved into new species of clever and deadly devices. Stun grenades, smoke grenades, claymores, nitro cells, these classics are more impactful than ever, and yes, that includes impacts. But complete objectives and studies to progress further, and you can unlock grenades for paralyzing enemies in place, or quickly finding out what's on the other side of that wall. Bring your own health boosters or revive kits for when Doc's not around. Equip a friggin' laser that dissolves the sprawl right before your very eyes. And React Tech doesn't just do cool stuff on its own. It really amplifies the kind of synergies you can explore with your crew. Tachanka's turret with an enemy projectile blocking field wall. Scan drones with high penetration rifles. Arc mines with... Oh god, you got zapped so bad. Oh, you're dead now. Put it all together, and the ways you can customize your squad to take on different challenges just continues to grow exponentially as you progress. But there's a but. The name of the game is Extraction, and if you don't extract from your incursion, your operator will go MIA. The Archeans got him, and you gotta get him back. On your next incursion to that location, you'll get a shot at rescuing your lost operator on an MIA rescue. This requires you to find them and free their foam-encased body from a horrible, grabby tree demon that does not want to give them up, or, for that matter, let them down. If you get your operator out and pack them up for shipping, they'll be back in your roster and will heal back to full strength as you run successful incursions with other operators. So when you're thinking, hey, I can take on a tougher difficulty level, or, you know what, that's probably enough health to get me through the next subzone, just remember that going MIA is serious business. Then again, you take on tougher challenges, you get those big XP bonuses and upgrades, then business will be booming. Decide for yourself this January when Rainbow Six Extraction launches on PS4 and PS5. Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S, cloud gaming, and PC. Subscribe to this channel to catch the next video in our series, and get the latest updates at news.ubisoft.com.
Engage my target.
Bring the asset to the extraction pod.
In Rainbow Six Extraction, your mission is to get in, get the job done, and get out. But no two missions are quite the same, and in this episode of our Rainbow Six Extraction Deep Dive series, we're taking a look at how different maps and objectives and difficulties combine to create a dizzying array of possibilities. So let's break it down. You're looking at 12 dynamic maps divided into 3 zones each. 13 different randomized mission types, 18 operators, over 24 React Tech devices. Gah! This thing, like 10 different types of these things, okay? Plus, all this nasty sprawl, which you know just has to smell awful. And on top of all that, you never know which Archeans are gonna spawn where and where the objective's gonna be. It turns out, actually getting the job done is gonna be a little more complex. And a lot more intense. New York City, San Francisco, Alaska, New Mexico, and this absolutely weird place. The maps of Extraction are spread out across the whole continent and beyond, with each region more challenging than the one that came before it. The different regions each have their own feel, not just like the touristy flavor of Liberty Island in New York City compared to the frigid frontier situation of Eurydice Valley in Alaska. I'm talking about the architecture, the kinds of spaces you're fighting in, the different challenges, opportunities, and environmental stories they present. It breaks down like this. Each region has 3 maps, and each of those maps has 3 subzones. Every mission sends you off to one map and gives you 3 objectives, 1 per subzone. You have the chance to extract after each subzone, which ends the mission and banks all your progress towards leveling up your operators. So, to see an entire map, you'll need to complete your first 2 objectives and decide to risk it all for the big payout of completing the 3rd and final objective. Each subzone presents progressively more difficult enemies, and the setting can change significantly from one area to the next. Let's look at Eurydice Valley. It's way out there in the Alaskan hinterlands, and the first subzone we encounter on this mission is a straight-up farm. I don't know what they're farming in this weather, but the whole place is the site of an ancient meteor crater, which might have something to do with the parasite wanting to set up shop. The farmyard and a large barn dominate this area, creating some big open spaces. In the next subzone, Eurydice Commons, you'll find yourself mostly indoors in what looks to be part hunting lodge, part museum of oddities. The buildings are close here, which means lots of doors and windows and destructible walls to watch. Into the 3rd subzone, titled Missile Silo, it's abundantly clear that this is no humble farming community, as you descend into an underground complex, complete with a bunch of labs, and yes, a missile silo. This variety from zone to zone means you can find yourself in a lot of different combat situations during each mission. Playing the Specimen objective, in which you need to lure an elite enemy back to your pad and try not to get mauled in the process, gets trickier when you have a lot of stairs and sprawl to traverse.
Capture system on.
If your mission was, say, serial scan, you'd be more focused on barricading openings near the scan areas and laying traps for your incoming foes, so the stairs wouldn't be as much of a factor. How you interact with the map depends on which of the 13 different objectives you're working on, and it's never quite as simple as shoot 'em all and let Ash sort 'em out. Take triangulation. Once you activate the first of the 3 stations, you gotta move to the next one quickly. But operators running down hallways is like catnip to the Archeans, and they play with claws out. It's better to scout your route from station to station before activating them so you can stealthily thin the herd and find pathways that'll allow you to cover ground swiftly. And here's where your power to shape the map through destruction or carefully opening doors or destruction starts to make a real difference. Because if you get turned around while the swarm is nipping at your heels, let's just say you might not be living up to the title of the game on this particular run. Scouting the lay of the land is also crucial for decontamination, the objective in which you have to shoot a whole infestation of aberrant nests and then get a sample from the most aberrantest one because Mira has only a tenuous regard for your personal safety. What you'll need to look out for here, and pretty much everywhere else, is the sprawl. This stanky gunk is distributed differently each time you play a given map. So even if you're starting to know your way around San Francisco's Apollo Casino and Resort after a few visits, the sprawl is always creeping somewhere new to mix things up. Plus, if an Archean sounds the alarm and alerts nearby nests, they're gonna start pumping out even more sprawl, which is a bad thing. The sprawl slows you down. The sprawl speeds them up. The effects of spreading sprawl can essentially alter the map mid-mission in favor of the things that want to kill you. Shoot it, melee it, plunge your knife into a big gooey nest and clear out a whole mess of it. You never know who's going to be coming around the corner, and you don't want the sprawl helping them do everything faster. I mean, the Archean archetypes and spawn locations are all shuffled up on every mission. I've played Sabotage and managed to defend my charges with a gaggle of explosive breachers gambling at me on all fours from every which way. But when it's a pack of spikers throwing spikes at me through walls from lion knows where, I don't know, man. Look, we're going to talk a lot more about the different Archaeans and tactics to take them down in another episode of this deep dive series, but suffice to say, when it comes to enemies, you never quite know what you're going to get. And hey, if what you're getting isn't making you break a sweat, or you want to get after those operator skill upgrades and weapon unlocks more quickly, then kicking the difficulty up a notch might be right for you. Completing objectives on tougher difficulties yields substantially more progression, but side effects may include increased sprawl, elevated Archaean aggression, grievous bodily harm, and stasis foam encasement. So, ask yourself, is it worth the extra risk to get those extra rewards? If you want more info on those rewards, check out the other video in our series, where we delve into how different operators can not only change your approach to the mission, but can also evolve as you level up. Rainbow Six Extraction is launching this January for PS4 and PS5, Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S, cloud gaming, and PC. Subscribe to this channel to catch the next videos in our series, and get the latest updates at news.ubisoft.com. No matter what you call them, the enemies of Rainbow Six Extraction are a deadly threat, and if you and your squad hope to survive, then you need to know what you're up against. In this episode of our Rainbow Six Extraction Deep Dive series, we're talking tactics, what attacks and abilities the different Archaeans will throw at you, and what strategies you and the crew can use to take them down. First things first, you gotta watch out for the ones that just run up to you and explode. What kind of game plan is that? A surprisingly effective one, as it turns out. The ones with the big red pustules on their back are breachers, and their passion in life is to explode you, your friends, and any reinforcements or barricades you may have put up. Overachievers. Their cousins with the green pustules are bloaters. They have a grosser name, and they release a poisonous gas that damages you and obstructs your vision and probably leaves you with lingering respiratory problems. You'll want to shoot both of these from a safe distance, and if they get too close, melee them so they fall over and die at a safe distance. Here's a tip: if you can take out a breacher without exploding their boom sack, then you've got a handy little trap just waiting to be shot when other enemies shamble on by. Breachers have a way of appearing at just the wrong time, so take Doc along on the squad for a quick health shot after any close encounters, and bring Smoke or Capitao to deploy toxic gas to stop these parkour-happy pests. Now, not every Archie is so eager to make your acquaintance. Take the Sower. This little creep hunkers down and scuttles around the joint on all fours, making it tough to spot. Its armored head foils head-on assault, and if you pursue it, you might just trigger one of these little mines it leaves behind, and this will happen. Keep an eye out for those mines, and respond in kind, with a claymore or arc mine to surprise the Sower as it skirts around your squad. Then there's the Lurker. Loves to be invisible, loves to make its friends invisible. This is creepy and should not be allowed, but here we are. The Lurker will come at you, and when it does, smack it with a melee attack to reveal its weak point and shoot it quickly. Otherwise, the armor goes back up, your bullets aren't really effective, and you'll have to call in Hibana with her armor-busting X-Kairos explosives to get the job done. With evasive enemies like these, it helps to have an intel operator along for the incursion. So bring IQ to help pin down your foe's location.
Take out my target.
Of course, there are some enemies who are less subtle than others. Meet the Smasher. The Smasher can't help it that they have big, stompy footsteps. It's not their fault that they're covered in formidable armor, yet move with an alarming speed. The way I see it, you have two options. Option 1, overwhelming force. Sledge uses a charged-up hammer swing to stagger the beastie, and Tachanka unloads on it with his mounted LMG. Option 2, distract and flank. Smoke or stun grenades can keep the Smasher from charging, while someone scurries around the behemoth and delivers the fatal melee takedown. You know, it almost makes you feel bad for the big lump, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. I mean, come on, look at the tactics these Archies are out here using. Have you seen the rooter? This jerk scurries around on tippy toes trying to literally root you in place with this ranged rooting attack. I appreciate the commitment to the bit, but getting stuck in place in Extraction is bad news. You'll have a better chance of surviving sticky situations with armor plates from Rook propping you up. And if you've got Vigil in play, activate his cloaking ability to skirt around and uproot the rooter. When in doubt, a quick paralysis grenade can freeze the rooter before it strikes and give you the window you need to take it out. There's a big benefit to taking out Archaeans before they get going. Have you perhaps heard this sound before? This is the sound of an Archaean getting all worked up and hollering for its friends to come through. Not only will this ominous screeching bring other Archies a-running, but it will also awaken any nearby nests. Nests are these big blobby things, and normally they don't do much at all. But when they hear a howl, they start cooking, oozing out more of that operator-hindering, Archaean-accelerating sprawl that we all know and hate, and eventually birthing a full-grown enemy into the world to kill you. Pro tip, meleeing a nest to take it down will remove any sprawl that's around it. Meleeing a nest to take it down after you've lured your teammate below it will remove their entire self-esteem. Aw, you know that stuff smells so bad. Now, a lot of the time, awakened nests will issue forth grunts, which you might think, hey, no big deal, easy headshot. But if a grunt lands 2 or 3 solid hits on you, you're downzo, bud. Don't sleep on grunts. And if the nests are popping out spikers, well then now you've got a whole lot of projectiles coming your way, possibly from behind destructible surfaces, which, I thought was our whole thing. Plus, while they're shooting you, spikers put their armored forearm up in front of their face to make headshots trickier to land. Give yourself some cover by throwing down a field wall to block projectiles, or have your pal Jaeger deploy one of his active defense turrets to intercept them. By now, you're starting to see how, with even a few different Archaeans in the mix, the potential for finding yourself in a bad situation multiplies. And this is amplified as the difficulty increases, which happens in a couple of ways. The second and third objective on any given incursion will increase in difficulty. Incursions in later regions will be more difficult than ones in earlier regions. And while any of these increases will mean better rewards for doing the deed, there's also a better chance you'll meet some of the nastiest Archaeans out there. Like the sludge. Oh, the horrible, insidious goo. Behold its slimy malignance as it multiplies and sprouts loathsome little legs. This abomination is actually not that dangerous at all. It's just super gross. Now, the Tormentor, there's a nasty piece of work. This enemy will bombard you with projectiles, liquefy itself into an inky, bubbling blob, quickly reposition, and then pop back up for more bombardment. It is perhaps the most evasive enemy in the game, so you'll need to focus on nailing it down first. Stop it from burrowing by carpeting the area with Gridlock's track stingers. Then, set up one of Ella's stunning Gersmot mines on your flank in case it gets past you, and put an end to the Tormentor's torment. And speaking of torment, can we just talk about blinding spores for a second? These festive little fellas will reach out and stick to you and eventually burst to do mild damage, which isn't that bad. But they also majorly obstruct your vision. And when they're piggybacking on every enemy because your incursion has the blinding spore carrier mutation active, it can be so bad. Get your buddies to melee or shoot them off of you. And if that's not an option, Nomad's air jabs can clear them as well. Do not let them linger, because you have bigger fish to fillet. Namely, the Apex. The enemy so inimical it spawns more enemies, in addition to zipping around the area and blasting you with massive blinding projectiles. When asked to pick a lane, the Apex simply said yes, and now it's out here creating a whole mess of problems on purpose, and it's not gonna stop. Use Lion's EE1D drone scan to make sure you don't lose sight of the Apex. and throw down some of Alibi's Prisma decoys to draw both projectiles and new enemy hordes away from your squad. Finally, have Finka activate her Adrenal Surge to clear any blinding effects and reduce the team's recoil so you can focus fire and remove the Apex threat. But it's not over yet. There's one more kind of Archean that you can encounter, and to meet them, you'll have to get a gateway objective, and then locate the large orb, and then go into it? There you will find a Protean. A Protean is like if a malevolent yet unfathomable alien intelligence tried to create an extraction operator out of materials they had laying around their creepy alien workshop. And they succeeded, but, like, in a bad way. For you, specifically. The enemies of Extraction are a varied and vicious bunch, and with their powers combined, you and your squad are in for a tough fight this January when Rainbow Six Extraction launches on PS4 and PS5, Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S, cloud gaming, and PC. Subscribe to this channel to catch the other videos in our deep dive series and get the latest updates at news.ubisoft.com. Maelstrom. The very name conjures up images of turmoil, tumult, and too many Archeans. My God, where do they all come from? Maelstrom is Rainbow Six Extraction's challenge mode, an endgame gauntlet that changes weekly, tripling the number of objectives you'd normally run back-to-back, and ratcheting up the difficulty almost every step of the way. You'll want to bring your fully leveled up operators for these runs, or just be very, very good. Or both. In return, there are lucrative XP and React credit rewards, not to mention exclusive seasonal headgear to show off just how good you really are at Extraction's most difficult mode. This is Maelstrom, and in this episode of our Rainbow Six Extraction Deep Dive series, we're going to show you how it works. It starts by expanding the scope of what React is asking you to do. Instead of giving you a maximum of 3 objectives in a row, Maelstrom lays out 9. 9 different consecutive objectives in a single region, each with its own mutation to add an extra layer of complexity and some bonus XP to the mix. Every 3 objectives you complete, the difficulty kicks up a notch, and along the way, the variety of ammo and health refill stations available and how many of them appear slowly dwindles. Oh, and the time you have to execute your objective gets shorter. Told you this wasn't gonna be easy. On top of that, Maelstrom only allows you to choose from a selection of 6 operators at any given time. You may have to adapt your usual tactics if your go-to crew isn't on deck. And if your operator goes MIA in a failed Maelstrom run, you'll have to go back to the core game to rescue them. All of these factors add up to a distinctly different Extraction experience, one that is tuned to put you to the test and reward you accordingly. But here's where things get even more interesting. Maelstrom's lineup of objectives and mutations and the selection of operators are all set on a weekly basis, meaning that while the specifics will be a surprise on your first run, your second, third, or 9th run that week will all have the same parameters. And this is a game changer. You see, diving into a regular incursion in Extraction is all about preparing for the unknown with a wide variety of operators and tech to choose from. But in Maelstrom, it's all about using your hard-earned knowledge to make the best plan you can with very specific options. It forces you to think differently about how you're playing the game, and it creates some new opportunities. You can learn from your previous runs and say, run right for that platform teeming with nests to inject your trackers, instead of searching the map for nests and risking alerting your enemies. You'll know that even though it was faster to skirt around a particular building last time, the enemies inside it rushed out at you once you engaged the objective, so on the next run, you better take the time to clear that building first. Wielding this knowledge means you can plan, And crucially, you can improve. The more effective you are, the more health, ammo, and gadget reserves you'll have when it comes time for that crucial question. Do you take on the next objective and go for those bigger rewards? Or do you extract and bank the XP you've already earned? Clearing an objective that you failed on a previous run is very satisfying, and doing so with enough resources in your pockets to confidently take on the next objective, now that's the good stuff. You'll also get good stuff for doing well in Maelstrom. The escalating difficulty and regular mutations mean there's plenty of XP to be earned to level up your operators if you haven't maxed them out already. You can also earn React credits, the premium currency that you can spend in the in-game store to unlock some of the amazing cosmetic items Extraction has on offer. And, perhaps swaggiest of all, you can unlock a special seasonal headgear that reflects just how far you made it on your best Maelstrom run. Bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, each one has its own look, and each one is more gratifying to earn and show off than the last. Just keep in mind that with the ever-evolving structure of Maelstrom, your seasonal headgear unlock is not permanent, so you'll need to keep earning those stripes. Gear may or may not include actual stripes. Maelstrom is not your regular Extraction experience. It's not for the faint of heart. What it is a uniquely rewarding challenge that changes week to week, month to month, and gives you a chance to show off just how sharp your skills really are. Learn more about the enemies, objectives, and operators of Rainbow Six Extraction by checking out the other deep dive videos right here on Ubisoft's YouTube channel. And visit us at news.ubisoft.com.